ANC-DA squabbles over unreasonable cabinet demands spark debate about GNU. The ANC has raised concerns over what is called outlandish and outrageous demands from the DA regarding cabinet positions to the Government of National Unity. The ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula accused the DA, their biggest partner in the GNU, of using leaks and of negotiating in bad faith. It is only the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, who has the final say on the appointment of his cabinet. The GNU cannot be held to ransom by any single party. The people need a government to be established sooner rather than later. In a letter from the DA, Helen Zille to Mbalula, the party said it wanted 11 ministries, including international relations, higher education, transport and trade and industry, and John Steenhuisen to be appointed deputy president or within the presidency. In the letter, the party also threatened to leave the GNU and withdraw its support for the Provincial Government of Unity in KZN and Gauteng. The ANC's concerns have sparked a mixed reaction from the public on X, with some supporting the party's stance and others criticizing as inflexible. Gulam from X commented, "Just pure class from Fikile Mbalula, such maturity and dignity. Well done, Bucks. You were told that DA is not for your good and you thought you were wiser," commented Academia on X. Sia then commented that they chose DA over everyone else. He said, "None of you thought that the ANC and DA are fundamentally at the opposite ends or anything about South Africa. To be honest, you are the worst General Secretary of ANC. You have failed South Africa people. Look, now you are dancing for Cyril. Maybe this is the end of ANC," commented Khati Kasti on X. Ramaphosa is expected to announce his cabinet this week. It is expected to include members of the ANC, DA, IFP, PA, FF+, PSC, and other parties who joined the GNU. On Tuesday, 58 MK party members were sworn in. The party is expected to become the official opposition after the DA opted to join the GNU. DA insists on their own DGs, but they claim it's not cadre deployment. Despite strongly condemning the ANC for its cadre deployment program, the DA says its insistence on appointing its own candidates for top ministerial positions in the Government of National Unity GNU was to ensure that they hire the best people for the job and not cadre deployment. The DA wanted 12 cabinet posts, including that of the Deputy President DP in the GNU. It also demanded that the Directors General DGs in departments reporting of their ministers were selected by panels consisting of DA ministers, adding that their decisions should not be withheld. This was all mentioned in a letter of demands that was Sunday sent to the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, informing him about his plans in the GNU. In the letter, the DA also insisted on the termination of all current DG's contracts in the departments that they won in favor of nominees that had been authorized by them. Critics, including some members of the ANC, have slammed the DA for being hypocrites, saying they are attempting to exercise their own version of cadre deployment. The DA recently called the ANC to provide them with their cadre deployment records to prove that they did not employ people because they were their friends. Responding to this, DA's Richard Newton argued that there was no difference between employing someone because you were related and someone fit for the job. To clarify this, he told IOL that all their demands would be approved by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa. There is also the provision in the letter that selected candidates are submitted to the president for approval, he said. According to Newton, the quest to appoint the best person for the job, whomever that may be, was very different from the ANC cadre deployment. He said the ANC would place people who were utterly incompetent in departments that crumbled due to the incompetence. ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu Motsiri told IOL that they had noted the DA's demands but said this was premature because they have to wait for President Cyril Ramaphosa to announce his cabinet. The president should be allowed space and time to make the pronouncement of constituting his cabinet as it is his constitutional responsibility, she said. Public policy specialist at the Wits School of Governance, Dr. Kagiso T.K. Poe, explained to IOL that all political parties around the world, including the DA in Western Cape or where they govern, practice deployment of trusted bureaucrats to strategic levels of control. According to Poe, the ANC misused the concept and practice of deployment, stating that they have deployed comrades instead of cadres. In the late 1990s and 2000s, the quality of director generals and pipelines of leadership was better and stronger. However, the ANC long stopped looking for the best and brightest, and this is what parties like the DA criticize, which is fine. But as their recent demands illustrate, they aren't against launching their preferred folks into government. So, the issue is not deployment, but rather allowing for the system to absorb the best and brightest and then negotiating the tension between political heads and technocrats, he said. Political analyst Professor Sipho Sepe said the DGs appointed by the ANC were a result of cadre deployment, and as such, they cannot be trusted to execute the mandate advanced by a new executive or political authority. However, Sepe said the DA sees itself as having a copyright over what constitutes professionalism. Having projected itself as a custodian of political morality, it sees no contradiction between what it proposes and what the ANC has practiced over the years, he said. He further mentioned that this would create a conundrum for Ramaphosa, given that the career incidents involving DGs fall within his office. Outlandish, outrageous demands divide GNU. The ANC has drawn a line in the sand, saying no single party will hold to ransom the negotiations over the allocation of cabinet positions in the Government of National Unity, GNU. This comes as parties in the ANC-led coalition have yet to reach consensus on ministerial positions. The DA wants 11 ministerial portfolios and deputy ministers in the same ministries. The impasse is such that Parliament cannot establish portfolio committees until the ministerial portfolios have been designated. In a statement, ANC National Spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu Motsiri said they noted this concern that some parties were making outlandish and outrageous demands for specific cabinet positions in the media. Bengu Motsiri said negotiating through leaking demands was an act of bad faith, and this practice would not help the cause of any party. It is only the president who has the final say on the appointing of the cabinet. The GNU cannot be held to ransom by any single party. The people need a government to be established sooner rather than later, she said. A total of 10 parties are now of the GNU after several joined at the weekend. While negotiations at national level are underway, consensus is still to be reached in Gauteng after talks resulted in the election of President Cyril Ramaphosa and premiers and presiding officers in parliament and legislatures. Mbalula said the second phase of the process to appoint the cabinet in line with the constitution was underway, and Ramaphosa would announce the cabinet in the coming days. Once cabinet is formed, Parliament will then start its work to establish its structure, including portfolio committees and other structures of responsibility as prescribed by the Constitution. It is the ANC's wish to see that these processes are not unnecessarily delayed, so that the 7th administration can be on with the urgent tasks of attending to the people's priorities. Mbalula's statement came as some communications from DA Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zille emerged stating that the cabinet positions to be held by her party should include that of Deputy President. We can only agree to give up the post if it is replaced with both a minister in the presidency, who is also designated as the leader of government business and participates fully in the policy development and monitoring responsibilities of the presidency, and a deputy minister of finance who practices fully in the development of the budget, reads the document. The document states that Director General in the department reporting to DA ministers should be selected by panels consisting of their ministers and submitted to the President for approval. The contracts of all current DGs would also need to be reconsidered. This is in light of our concern that incumbents may be amenable to directions from the DA ministers, especially given the ANC's cadre deployment policy. The document also stated that all tenders in departments to be run by the DA since promulgation of the election should be reviewed. It is not possible to effect change in the context where recent decisions by the previous government are rendered irreversible. The documents warned that the DA's participation in government in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal depended on the party's participation at a national level. Contacted about the document, purportedly from Zille, DA spokesperson Fikile Mbalula would only say his party remained committed to the statement of intent to set up a GNU. The purpose of our negotiations now is to give expression to that statement so that we are able to make a positive impact on the lives of South Africans. We obviously cannot enter a government if we do not have the means to effect positive change. We are hopeful that we can reach a satisfactory agreement with the ANC, he said. Mbalula, who steered clear to the documents purported to be from Zille, said they were obliged to respect the mandate from the voters and put the people of South Africa first. In his weekly newsletter, Ramaphosa said that every effort must be made to ensure that the GNU remain true to its founding spirit of collaboration in good faith. The success of the GNU will be measured by the extent to which we are prepared to focus not on who will govern, but on how we will govern together, he wrote. Meanwhile, COSATU said it remained deeply opposed to the DA being in the GNU. If the DA is to be part of GNU, then it must abandon its anti-worker and anti-transformation agenda, General Secretary Solly Porto said. Porto said the GNU policy mandate should be anchored on the ANC manifesto and to be guided by the Constitution. Deputy President Mike Shengange said that they have accepted that Ramaphosa had the prerogative to appoint the cabinet. We appreciate the engagement that must happen among the parties. Our expectation, with or without the DA in cabinet, is that we should not experience a reversal of progress we made, Shengange said. And that's it from Injibs Network. Stay tuned to our celebrity and gossip news.